Welcome back to the 2019 Cannabis Industry Summit, brought to you by Steward Media. Joining us now is Nick Calkins with Cannabis Property Brokers. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So this is not the kind of industry where I just say, oh, I got some property up north, I think I'm going to start growing some marijuana and get into the business, right?
Not quite, unless you want, $1 million paperweight on your hands. Absolutely.
Or law enforcement coming to...
Correct. They backed off a little bit since MRTMA came into place, but they're still very hungry.
So what is the right way to do this if you want to get in the business? How do you help somebody who wants to get in the business?
So first and foremost, do your research, right? Do your due diligence. Understand that this is a highly regulated market. Understand that some of those individuals and or businesses you may have seen in the past that were operating in the unregulated market, marijuana flew off of the shelf, right? It was a money printing press. That is not the case anymore. We have real competition. We have those with real business acumen coming into this industry, and it's going to be overly competitive, especially with the interplay between state and federal law. It's one of the most competitive businesses. It's one of the easiest to potentially fail.
So really what you need is to come in with a very solid plan, probably some serious financial backing, and find the right property. How do you find the right property?
Well, you have to do your analysis, right? You have to understand the geography of the state in which you're going to operate, whether it's Michigan or outside of Michigan. You have to understand the municipal controls in there. You have to understand the supply chain throughout the state of Michigan. There are cost constraints. You have to pay a secure transporter to transport your product back and forth unless you're vertically integrated and you can move product throughout on one specific parcel. So what you really need to do is understand the regulations in the municipality, where you want to set up shop, and when you find that particular property that you think is going to be your home base, you need to attach the municipal entitlements before you decide to close on it. Otherwise, again, you might have a large paperweight on your hands. That's one of the benefits of our business model is we will condition the sale of a property to you based on the municipal entitlements that you seek.
So it's really crucial to have somebody with a lot of experience in the cannabis industry to handle your business.
Oh, absolutely. And you touched on capitalization, right? There are some requirements that the state has promulgated with regards to how much they think you need to capitalize your business. It's a lot more than that. That'll get you through maybe an initial planning phase, but when it comes to some of those sunk costs involved and competing in the market as it is now, I would urge you to have far more capitalization than what the state requires as a threshold to meet those licensing standards.
Tell me how you got into this. This wasn't the first thing you did when you started in your career.
No, not at all. So I started my career actually at a boutique drunk driving law firm. I did a lot of criminal defense. That dogtailed into criminal defense for marijuana. I did a lot of marijuana driving cases under the influence. And one day, I'm sitting at my computer, and I see the statutory framework drafted by the state, the Medical Marijuana Facility Licensing Act. My jaw drops. I absolutely cannot believe the state is going to allow commercial marijuana facilities, right? I thought it was extremely exciting. The firm that I worked for was not necessarily willing to jump out on a ledge, so to speak, and develop a niche practice there. So myself and another individual, we broke off. It was amicable. We started our own law firm. I, from there, was doing municipal and state license applications. I've done about 50 state applications and probably the same or so municipal applications. So I got really very familiar with the Medical Marijuana Facility Licensing Act, and now obviously the Michigan Regulation of Taxation of Marijuana Act that allows for adult use in the state of Michigan. I've now kind of bridged that with a commercial real estate practice that allows me to serve my client well as general counsel for Cannabis Property Brokers.
Because I've heard some horror stories where people have invested in properties, cleaned them up, got them ready for what they thought was going to be a business,
right,
and then suddenly there's an opt-out vote.
Correct.
Or not opt-in vote.
Correct.
What happens there, and how does that happen?
So, again, this is part of your due diligence. If you're going to go into a municipality that has yet to have an ordinance on the books to either regulate under the MMFLA or the MRTMA, you're taking a chance, right? And that's why it's so important to make sure that you condition the acquisition of that property on the municipal entitlement. There are opportunities under the under MRTMA, under the Adult Use Statutory Framework, that allow for, as well as the MMFLA, that allow for ballot initiatives to allow, essentially forcing that municipality. That's not necessarily an easy route to take. So buying the property first and figuring out the logistics later and the regulatory framework is absolutely not the way to go. Some municipalities are really friendly. They're really inviting. They understand the positive implications via tax revenue generation, and they're probably pretty easy to work with. And you need to understand what their application looks for as well, because some may give you a license, so to speak, within a week of that application submission. Some are merit-based applications, which are very competitive processes, and they're very stringent with regard to their procedure and their protocol and their oversight. So you really need to understand where you're going to set up, what that regulatory framework looks like. And again, I would highly stress the supply chain, right? If you're going to be a grower, you need to understand where your retail outlets are, your secure transporter that's going to get the product there, where your testing facility is, because there's going to be a lot of cost involved transporting this product back and forth. So there's a whole heck of a lot of research to do before you decide to pick where you want to be in Michigan. And I would urge you, don't base it on where your home is and how far you want to drive to work, right? That is not a key for success in this business.
Is it early to get into the business? Is it late to get into the business? As someone who wants to get in, where are we at in the? Obviously, a lot of people already have a head start, right?
Correct. And you can make the argument either way. This is a burgeoning industry. We have recreational marijuana on the books, and I think those getting in now, they have some advantages in that their process for getting state license is going to be a little bit easier. The state used to have a board, a 5-member panel that decided who did and did not get pre-qualification status as well as operational licensure status. That has been taken up by the Regulatory Bureau, and they do that in-house. And the vetting process, although it is still very stringent, the amount of documentation requested has been relaxed a little bit. So from that standpoint, and as well just learning from those operators that have tried and failed, I think there is some ability to really take away from that. And again, you can make the argument either way, but overall, if you have good operators, if you have a good plan and you know how to execute, there's still a lot of room to get involved in this business. Less than 10% of Michigan municipalities have opted in. The market is still very, very large for somebody to get their foot in the door.
How did you get to be known as the king of cannabis?
The king of cannabis. I don't know that I am the king of cannabis. I don't think that I'm the self-proclaimed king of cannabis, but it's what I do day in and day out. It's an exciting industry. It's not very often that a brand new industry is developed. I think we're going to see a lot of great positive things come from this, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
And it's key to find experts in the industry when you're trying to get into that industry. You don't want to make a big mistake just because you worked with someone who didn't know the regulations.
It's key. It's key. Your third-party professionals are key. Your operators are key. I'm an attorney. I think they're extremely important, but more so than ever, you need a good CPA on your side. Otherwise, you are destined to fail.
Good. All right. Nick Calkins, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with more of the 2019 cannabis industry.